Look, I opened this jar of rotten baby food, and well, a butterfly came out.
All right.
All right.
Welcome to the Comedians and Elevators podcast. I've got my guest Tommy Guns here. Tommy, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Tommy Guns. I'm a writer, mostly write horror and stuff. I work with different companies out there. I mean, different scripts and stuff. I work with Twisted Films. You know what I mean? Through Seth and stuff. He has a great projects coming up and stuff. I worked with a stand-up comedian for 20 years. He was a role comic and stuff. Highliner, Nikki Bashane Buzzard. I'm working on his scripts right now and stuff. Another License to Be Crazy. And Endorphin Man is Endorphin Man wants to be picked up by Lionsgate. I'm working with Bob Films with Sweet Dream Media for another film called Ghost Dance Massacre. Yeah, I mean it's about Indian tribe. It got slaughtered back then and stuff, and the Indian ghost spirits are catching these kids at this cabin down and stuff because for they stole their land and stuff. And I'm working on my projects and stuff. I have a bunch of TV shows. Get it doing great at the film festivals, give me a finalist and stuff, and different film projects and like that and stuff are on my way.
Very cool. That sounds like you got a lot of stuff going, and
I
hopefully,
have a full plate. Yeah, I mean that's
yeah,
not even half of
exactly.
it. And I have a documentary with
Okay.
Kevin Cabela, but little person out Pirates of the Caribbean with a friend of mine, Frankie on Frank and stuff, from Frank Media, and they're doing a new reality show. And he's a paranormal investigator with Nate Bacon. He's the regional manager of the Warren family who did the Conjuring movies. You know what I mean? And they're
Ah,
doing on multiple universes and stuff and string theory and stuff and saying about ghosts are not really ghosts. There's a transmissional thing because we're all in one universe. You know what I mean? There's no time, back time. Everything plays out at once. You know what I mean?
oh, 100%. I'm all about the higher dimensional experience. That's
Yeah.
that's definitely that's definitely one of my things. Well, so it sounds like you got everything going. Is that including comedy?
Comedy, I got comedy scripts and stuff. Yeah, and horror. I mean, horror and comedy go together
They
well.
do. They
They
do. They
do
do. They
because
do.
it's like the smiley face and the
Uh-huh.
sad face. Right? Comedy's not always funny. You know what I mean?
No,
It's the
well,
truth
it
of
can be
art.
technically funny and then scare the living daylights out of you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, because it's reality. You're sitting at home.
Well, let's get into it. So basically, the idea of the podcast is to compare and contrast the idea of the comic versus the comedian.
Yes.
So a lot of people don't really think there's a difference, but let me define it from my perspective. So I argue that the comedian is a funny person telling any jokes, and a comic is any person telling funny jokes. So it's two sides of the same coin. And a lot of people will say you start as a comic and you evolve into a comedian. Would you agree with that?
Mm, yeah. Because I figure if I'm telling you a joke right now and stuff, right? You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going in front of stage and stuff, like firsthand, doing what I'm say, doing like that, you know what I mean, open mic and stuff. You have to start from somewhere,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
telling your friend a joke. You practice on people you know around. You give them a feel for it. It's like if I put
So
my script in a film festival and getting bad reviews, I know that it's just not that well and stuff. It's getting great reviews, and I can push it out there. Let me test my material on you, you know what I mean? We're all
yeah,
telling jokes
100%.
and stuff. We're all making everyone laugh and stuff, right? We got to start from
Yeah.
somewhere.
You got to start from somewhere. Well, let's start with the first question. So, the first question is about the role of persona in comedy. So, how much of the comedian's voice is a character versus their real self?
Um, let's see, was to the real self. It's usually it's you know what I mean? That's it's the same and stuff, you know what I mean? Because they're paying with character, let's say that. It's as much as them, you know what I mean, in a character. But they
Hmm.
brought from life and stuff, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so
Well, so would you say that authenticity matters, or is the illusion part of the
authenticity
magic
matters the most. It
the
does.
most? Okay.
Yes, I
Is
knew
so
it.
is it, but the illusion component, there's an illusion component as well. Is there,
Yeah,
does that
yeah, it's the
aid?
character you built off of it and stuff, of the illusion and stuff, right? It's not a real
Mhm.
character. You're building an illusion of a character and stuff, but what you put into the character is real off of illusion of a character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, would you say that maybe the comic, the one starting out, focuses more on the illusion, trying to make that magic, and maybe misses some of the authenticity?
No, no,
Okay,
I don't think so. I know a character comic, Nicky Shane Buzzer, right? He
okay,
like that. He plays a homeless person for 20 years, a headliner, right? He made this character up. You know what I mean? He's
yeah.
great. He's funny.
That's a No, that's a good example. A lot of yeah, if it's an archetypal character,
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. He was a headliner. Yeah, and
right.
he played this character he made up, right? Yeah, I mean, dresses like him. This the homeless person has a backpack and all this, and like that.
Well,
But
you're
I mean,
giving me the one example of where I could say, like, you could pretty much say that that's a comic, but it's also transcended
he's a
into its own character, which would technically be a comedian. So there
yeah,
it is. You actually discovered the one that one moment where it can happen, I think.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, okay. So what do you say about punching up versus punching down? So where does a comic versus a comedian stand on this?
Punching up. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, punching up and stuff. It's like for like his line his deliveries and stuff. Yeah, because okay, like punching down and stuff is be a comic. I figure. I mean, because he's just delivering and stuff what he says, a joke and stuff, right? But punching up and stuff, yeah, I mean, you have to go over your dialogue a lot as I think a comedian, and like that, you have to punch up your material and stuff. It's always getting to the punchline as fast as you could. You know what I mean, as a comedian. You know,
Hmm.
what I mean, a comic, you know what I mean? It's just not getting as fast as like that. It's trying to get a response more, I think.
Okay. So would you say when someone plays, I'll say the homeless person as their character,
Yes.
I'm pretty much thinking that they can only punch up at that point. I mean, I think it might be hilarious if they're punching down, but maybe that's breaking the fourth wall. So have you seen that the content be more about punching up if the character's playing a homeless guy?
Yeah, I think so because you always have to and stuff, right? Because you have to punch up the material no matter what. Yeah, I mean, you have to, I mean, bring it up. Yeah, I mean, it's
Hmm.
always opposite track. I think. I mean, and
Yeah,
everything is
100%.
yeah. If I play, if I'm going to stage telling a sad story, I got to punch it up. Yeah, I mean, because and telling a happy story, I got to punch it down and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This one thing happened to me and stuff. And then guess what happened after that? You know what I mean? All this shit happens. You know what I mean?
So
Okay,
you're saying so maybe if they're a positive person, like a happy-go-lucky person, then they're going to punch down. Would that? So
yeah, Sam Kinison did
it's
a
like a
lot.
criticism with a smile, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Sam Kinison was great at that.
That's a good call out. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
Sam
Okay.
Kinison. Yeah, I mean, was a school teacher, was this and stuff, lost his wife, lost everything. Yeah, I mean, figured, fuck it. Yeah, I mean, excuse my language, but
No problem.
yeah, and he went out there, he started talking about but I lost my job, I lost this and stuff. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, my life. He just made fun about his life. Yeah, I mean, in a punch up way and stuff. This happened to me and this and that. You know, he punched it up. You know,
So would you say that the audience agreement with the comedian is a form of permission or alignment?
as a comedian, as a alignment, permission more. I think maybe. You know, what I
Okay.
mean? Because it's not alignment. Because the audience. I mean, as a comedian. Yeah, I mean, it goes out there performing stuff. Yeah, I mean, with the audience, sometimes the audience gets it, sometimes they don't. You know what I mean? It's just like you're giving them permission and stuff and like that. And it's not alignment because it's never alignment as a comedian, as an audience. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Because you know, what I mean? Some shows you hit it, and some shows you don't. You know what I mean? I think,
Well, you can look at it one way, alignment meaning if there is no alignment, then they may not even understand what's going on, the audience, right? So,
yeah,
maybe from
yes,
that perspective, a little bit of an alignment, but,
yeah,
I see what you're saying. You say probably it's 90% not alignment, more permission.
yeah, more permission and stuff, right? So because you want to say a role comic goes to one state, it's
Yeah.
great at. Yeah, I mean, figure he's going to New Jersey and stuff. He's ready to hit a big bomb there and stuff, right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, some people do
100%.
great in the Midwest. Some people do great, not great in West Coast, like California. You know? So it's the Midwest because they're more aligned that way. So
So now
so it's
you're starting to tap into the morphic field right now because the next question, which
yeah.
you haven't read, is about the point you just made. So it's about the cultural translation of comedy. So how do jokes that work in one country or region or area, part of the what city, then bomb in another?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough business and stuff. So so yeah, because is yeah, I mean it's you gotta know your audience and stuff like that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So and it's all about your manager too in a way and stuff. You're a stand-up comedian out there, comedian out there, going out there. Your manager got to know, you know what I mean, your venue because you know what I mean you're getting booked and stuff. He's not booking you right, man. You're going to bomb. You know what I mean? You know,
I mean,
and some people,
I hear that it doesn't matter. I hear from comedians, when I do stand up or
yeah,
either
you do
open
set up.
mics or
Okay.
shows, they are they're doing anything. Like if they're going on the road, it's anywhere that takes them. So they will bomb. I mean, they'll go to places that restaurants, even like bars, and there's like nobody's. You might as well not be there,
Yeah,
right?
but you know, what I mean, it was a stand-up comedian gets a laugh every 3 minutes. It should get a laugh every 3 minutes. You know what I mean?
100%,
Yeah, yeah,
at
yeah,
least,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. You don't get that laugh every 3 minutes and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's every night is your dialogue might change a little bit, something you might said and stuff. You know what I mean? And it's good to record yourself out there too. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
You know what I mean? See how you perform, how the audience responds and stuff like that and stuff. So, you know, you
That
want to,
sounds like that's the key here is you gotta record yourself even though it may be painful to watch back later, especially if
yeah,
it's
yeah, you got
not
to
the
hear
kind
the
of
room,
audience.
hear dialogue, how people laugh and this and that and stuff. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of comics out there, well, I know, they go to different places and Nate perfectly bomb, like George Carlin, you
Mhm.
know, great example and stuff. He went out there and bomb and bomb. And then he has one good show. Used that material. Mostly comedians bomb. And it didn't pick their material. It was, you know what I mean?
No,
So,
100%. I'm the master at bombing. I just go in there and I just destroy.
oh
Everything's
yeah.
just ruined.
Yeah, yeah. You get
Okay.
that joke, you
So
get that one laugh. You say, okay, I got this one laugh right here at this. I'm gonna keep this and change this, you know what I mean?
you can
So
bomb so bad you kill is basically,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
one way to look
exactly.
at it, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
would you say the comics are more universal while comedians are more culturally specific?
Yes, yes, I think so. You
Okay.
know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean depends on how you craft it. Okay, crowd work versus crafted work. So I would argue that comics riff more, do more crowd work, while comedians perform. They do more crafted work. So the question is where is the sweet spot between the two?
That is a good question right there. I see crafted work like that. I think hmm, there's limitations on that right there because I would say if you're good, let's say right, you're a comedian and stuff, right?
Mhm.
If you're good and stuff, it's more crafted and stuff because and it's like that. You see, like the '80s, you get picked up for movies and stuff, right? Now, comedians got in the '90s got picked up for TV shows and switched back to movies and stuff. But the comic and stuff is I think is less limited in that way and stuff. So the comic is less. You know what I mean? There is a
Well,
fine line.
doing that crowd work, right? So you
Yeah,
pretty much can
crowd
only
work.
do that in a nightclub, in a
Yeah,
comedy club. So
yeah.
they're not maybe not doing so many movies, but it has a whole
It-
different experience.
yeah, it's a different experience and stuff. Crowd work and stuff. Special events and stuff. Yeah, I mean, so
So what happens when a comic leans too much into crowd work, or on the flip side, if a comedian perhaps gets heckled?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah. But comedians don't care if they get heckled. You know me back.
I would agree. I would
Yeah,
agree. Yeah,
because you're out there doing your job, and especially a comedian out there. Let's say goes out there performs and stuff. He always and stuff, no matter what, it bombs or not and stuff. You know what I mean? And stuff. Their job is to perform their material and get off the stage. You know what I mean? It's not about the audience. You know what I mean? And so they're just
what's can
delivering
you
the message. Yeah, back
have
please
you
deliver the message.
have you heard a good heckle lately?
Mm, no, not really and stuff so far lately and stuff. But audience heckling back, I
Yeah.
don't, I don't. And really thing gets me and stuff. I think my audience heckles back and stuff. That's when they're like that. That's when they get mad and stuff because I always figure comedians out there, you tell the bad ones from the good ones and stuff. When a comedian out there heckles the audience, I hate that shit. They put you right in front of a stage and stuff, and you're all their material. You know what I mean? You're sitting there looking up, and they're out there asking, "Where are you from?" All this stuff, right?
Right,
And
right. So you basically you see that as antagonistic. You feel that the and I would argue that's the comic is actually heckling the audience, and so you see that as kind of not why you went to the show, right?
yeah, that's not a comic. You figure Don Rickles is famous. You know what I mean for that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? You know, back then, and and he was a comedian. He was not more like a comic. You know what I mean? You know
Okay.
what I mean? You know what I mean? His genre
So
goes.
he found the sweet spot, is what you're saying.
Yeah, in a way. Yes, he found a sweet spot. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a
between
good
there.
call.
I think so because look at Don Rickles and stuff. From was it Iraq Pack
Right.
to Vegas. You know what I mean? That was his act was Vegas, you know what I mean? And stuff, you know what I mean? And I remember from TV, a lot of talk shows like Johnny Carson, all that stuff, you know what I mean? His, you know what I mean? I think he's more like a comedian, but he's more like a comic too, you know what I mean?
So did he heckle the host at all? I don't recall. I mean, I don't know if
He
perhaps
echoed
you've seen it.
everyone. He
Okay.
echoed everyone. That was his thing out
Okay.
there, you know what I mean? Back there.
Very
So,
cool.
yeah. And I think
All
the
right.
comedian always out there should and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And comedians are way a lot more broader range of things, you know, now these days. You know what I mean? It's you know, what I mean? You know, like that. You know what I mean? So it's like
Sure.
comedians takes a whole. You know, what I mean, they're trying to get their own shows out there now. They're trying to do
Right.
this now. You know what I mean?
Dive a little deeper instead of being so broad as a
Yeah,
comics, kind of touching all the current events where the comedians diving in deep. Maybe if it's not topical at all, it's all about them, right?
yeah. And you forgot one comics out there. You know what I mean? How about the old comics out there who like back then and stuff wrote the newspaper ads and stuff for comics and stuff like Charlie Brown and all that. You
Hmm.
forgot those comics and stuff.
That's good. So yeah, 100%. So the actual comics being, cartoon characters and
Yeah,
little
and cartoon
voiceover.
characters who write, you know, what I mean, comics in the
Yeah.
newspaper. You open a newspaper, you got the comic section. You know what I mean?
So to me, that's the perfect example of what a comic is because they're not actually going deep. They're just always topical. They're always at the surface about current
Yeah,
events.
they're at the surface always, and they're not deep. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
like there's just a comic's more like a punchline. You know what I mean? You know,
Oh yeah.
just the
100%. Just hit those
punchline only.
punches.
Just gives you the
Yeah.
punchline. You know, he doesn't
Set them
dive
up.
into the story, tells you the story. You know what I mean? And hit the punchline. There's just the
Right.
punchline itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Punchline machine.
Yeah.
All right. So advertising and self promotion. Who advertises themselves more, a comic or a comedian? You know that place where you're not conscious and you're not sleeping either? That's your power bill to the electric company. Right here. I want us to be here with free energy, where the Wardenclyffe Tower meets the Eiffel Tower. But that's not where we are. We are here, where you've got the utility and you've got residential solar. Between these two, we know which one saves you money. This is where we can go in the meantime. But this is where I want us to be now, and this can be done now. So let me deputize you to represent DOSE, Department of Solar Efficiency, and let's get on the podcast to get the message out today. See you soon.
They're both the same and stuff. Yeah, I mean, spreading your word of yourself and stuff. But more is like that. But comics out there, putting a lot of stuff out there. You got YouTube. You got YouTube. You got Instagram now, Facebook, and all this stuff. It's not like back then and stuff. You have to book a show to get seen or so, right? You know what I mean? Or get on
So
Johnny Carson and stuff. I know comics and comedians get on talk shows to make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and stuff
100%. I
like
mean,
that.
this is, this what I'm doing right now would probably be argue is more of a comedian approach instead of a comic approach. For example, TikTok or Instagram, quick short videos, right?
Yeah,
Set them up, knock them down, just like a comic book.
I want to say, yeah. How about yeah? I mean, this right here, podcasts they do now, and most people don't have to go to comic clubs. They're filming themselves and telling their jokes for a mass audience now. It's all changed. Yeah, I mean, I think a comic is in a comedian. A comic goes on comedian out there has a show, talks about this and that and stuff, more events and comics out there. And could go to a comedian world too, because look, a comic could still, well, like me, it's like Bill Maher and stuff. Let's say him. Then could go on his show, give a couple of jokes about politics and all this stuff. Then he sits down on a panel and talk and jokes about it. He goes to his deeper subject. Sure, he's a comic first. He's on stage like Johnny Carson back then. Same thing. He shoots out some jokes and stuff, like a comic, right? It's not
No,
really,
100%. That's a great example. I would say that
yeah.
Bill
And he
Maher's
sits down
show
as a
structure.
comedian. He sits
Yeah,
down as a comedian. Yeah,
exactly. He starts as a comic doing the nightly show thing, and then he dives deeper into the actual meat and potatoes.
yeah. And then he becomes a comedian, and he shows this and that. And, he goes deep into a more comedian way. I mean,
So yeah, so he's the most well-rounded on broad in the broadcast
yeah.
space.
So yeah, a lot of them are like that now. You know what I mean? So
They're trying.
I'm gonna give you a couple punchlines and test it off to make you laugh to warm up a room. Then I'm gonna go deep. You know what I mean?
And his jokes actually they're I don't know, they're trying to be topical sometimes they're not funny,
No, not funny.
but they are current events and so what are you going to
It's
do if that's the
more.
whole.
I think more of the comedians now and comics are doing more shock theories and stuff. They're trying to say stuff to more shock. It's not funny, some of them are funny. Some of them out there doing shock. You know what I mean? Saying stuff to oh my gosh, what are you saying and stuff, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would say that's more the comic because he's trying to be, it's like
Okay,
news.
a
Like you're
good
the first
example.
one.
Bill
Huh?
Maher.
Yeah.
Bill Barr. It's a good
Oh, Bill
example.
Barr. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he touched a lot of subjects and store with people and stuff, right? Yeah, and like that, but he says off of what his head, his heart, his stuff. He doesn't care.
Right.
Is it more shock or is it more funny? Is getting the shock value of it, or is it more comedic or as a comedian and stuff, right? So I see people in different perspectives. You know what I mean? Now,
Yeah. I
so
see that it's his tone. I think that's the part that's shocking is how he takes, he takes that edgy tone with it. That's how I see it for
yeah,
him.
yeah, but
So
yeah,
would you say that self-promotion, would you see it as selling out or is it necessary for survival?
self promotion is a necessary thing now these days.
Yeah.
You could because the market's over flooded now. You know what I mean? And back then and stuff, a comic comedian was easier. You get yourself a booking agent or this or that. You can go a mic and stuff. Now it's internet. You know what I mean? You can promote yourself and shoot yourself to a top and stuff. Yeah, and all this stuff. I think the self promotion is always good for everything. I mean, more get yourself seen out there, the better you are.
Hmm.
No matter what it is. You know what I mean? Send smoke signals up in the air. If somebody reads that smoke signal, boom, you know what I mean? You made a
Yep.
contact. Any way to get your message across. And self promotion. And you know what? No one works harder than you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You know the direction you want to go into,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You're not gonna wait for no one else. Here's the thing. I'm
Yep.
waiting for this to happen. I'm waiting for this. I'm waiting for my agency to call me. I'm waiting for my booking agent to call me. I'm waiting for this club to call me. You know what I mean? I got booked and stuff, but I got pushed back and stuff, right? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You have to do things on your own now and stuff. And it's longer.
Absolutely.
I, I
So
think a lot of people are a bit more creative. I think people are getting more seen out there now. So, and
yeah,
it's like
you
you.
can't just be silo, right? You got to do the whole project. You got to do
Yeah,
everything from A to Z to get to get L to stick up at the top there.
yeah.
All right, censorship and offense. So does a comic avoid offense while a comedian courts it to prove a point?
Uh, I think comic is would say more to prove a point and stuff more offensive than a comedian. Comedian
Okay.
got more to lose than a comic, I think. You
More to
know?
lose. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they missed. If you believe that the comedian has evolved from the comic, then I would agree with that for
Yeah,
sure. For
yeah.
sure.
These days,
Uh,
it's all walking on glass. You know what I mean?
so who survives better in a cancel culture environment?
Yeah. Who survives the eventual environment? None.
Nobody.
Nobody.
Nobody
You,
survives. Okay.
you say you're talking about. Well, let's give a good example here. You talk about the left, you lose half of your audience. You talk about the right, you lose the other half of your audience and stuff, right? And so,
Well,
so you have to be more rounded. You know what I mean? On both sides. You know what I mean? And
I
so
mean, there's a lot of ways to look at it. Sometimes that controversy is exactly what you want to do, no matter what, right? So picking a side isn't necessarily a bad thing.
it's losing. Sometimes you lose your audience and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so,
I've
so,
seen a
so
lot of comics flip flop. They actually
uh,
choose one and then they flip to the other in the same
oh
set.
yeah,
So you're
they
like, wait a
do.
minute,
They do.
what side are you on? It's like the funny part is both sides are stupid. I'm
Yeah,
just showing you how stupid they are.
yeah, yeah. So
To
let's talk
offend
about both
everybody,
sides. Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Talk about both sides. You know what I mean? How stupid this side is, how stupid this side is. Yeah, I mean, don't choose one side and talk about that subject always. And that's the world now. I see comics and comedians. They talk about one side. They're stick on that side, and they're
Yeah.
talking about one say apple to oranges. I'm going to use that over politics, right? They're talking about apples always, but they're not talking about the flowers and the bees, anything else in the world. They're always talking about the apple. You know what I mean? They're stuck on that one subject. You know what I mean? Because
It's hard
because
to
they
it's
figure
hard to
their
flip
audience
flop, right?
with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, I see. Well, Bill Maher is obviously political, and he's probably the closest to flip flopping, right? Because he'll take other sides, and it's hard to catch when he does it. So I could
Yeah,
see
he
where this
does.
can.
Bill Maher does that. Yeah,
It's
and
very
Bill Maher
tricky.
does that too. He says, "Group." Bill Maher is a Democrat. Yeah, I guess doesn't like Trump. I hate talking about politics, saying this and stuff. Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, he gets booed by these other people and stuff. It's not getting booed. It's if you're a comic or a comedian, your job to make people laugh, make people realize in their lives is this and that and stuff. No matter what, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Don't bring the world into it. You know what I mean? We face enough world ourselves right now. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Reality of it and stuff. Let's get out of reality and take somebody to a different place. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
That's what I try to do. But a lot of people don't want to follow. So
Yeah,
timing and delivery, is it a science or an art?
it's a science and an art
Okay. So would
because
you say? Go ahead. Yeah. Why is
yeah,
that?
because I know it's a science and stuff. You work on your material, your lines and stuff as a stand up and as a stand up comedian and stuff like that. You're always tighten up your material, you know, as a stand-up comedian and stuff, right? You
Mhm.
always want to get to a punchline fast as you could and stuff, right? Yeah, it's a test and a deliver too. Yeah, I mean, you test it out, you deliver it, and you see how the response is out there. You know, and it's a science to it, and like that,
Would you
and
say that comics rely more on structure while comedians rely more on rhythm and emotion?
uh, that's a good question. A comic, yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's true because the comic out there would put their stuff out once they have original comics and stuff.
Hmm.
Well, it's like a newspaper ads. Will put out their punchlines out there. It doesn't get a response. You know what I mean? They're delivering one way, right? And as a comedian, you know what I mean? They're taking the feedback and stuff and saying, okay, they're pacing, they're timing, their act and stuff. You know what I mean? How the audience respond. Did they say it different this night? And last night they got laughs, and this night they didn't and stuff. They want to hear the delivery. They're recording it. They're hearing responses from the audience and stuff. It's yeah. So I think it's that way, like that.
So laughter versus applause. So are comics chasing laughs and comedians chasing applause breaks that validate the message?
It's the comics not chasing the laughs at all. Comedians, no. Yeah, because you're out there doing your job. You know what I mean? you're out there giving your lines and stuff, no matter what. You know what I mean? I mean, one audience might not laugh, and this audience will and stuff. It happens like that always and stuff, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so you're just working on your material always, trying to tighten it, make it better as a comic and stuff like there and stuff. It's just getting the message across only. Who could take it or not?
100%. So comedy is commentary. So when does a comedian cross into being a philosopher or a preacher?
That from start because I tell you one's face is a happy face, right? One's face is
Right.
a sad face. The sad face
So
is it's in reality. We cry. It's in your emotions and stuff, right? They're talking about stuff like that hits home and stuff, right? They feel
so
it.
is that
Right?
is that good or does it dilute the humor?
It's good.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're bringing something like that. And people, your delivery and stuff is stuff is more reality based and stuff. Touch at home. As a script writer, I'm taking people out of this reality and putting them somewhere else.
Right.
Somewhere else, right? It's like I said, it's like a script writer. If I said two people sitting at the dinner table, and having a conversation, and they say hello to each other, that's reality. We don't want to hear that. We experience that every day. As a writer, we want to take somebody else somewhere different. And it's the same thing as a comedian or a comic and stuff, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, a comedian and stuff. He wants it to hit more reality. Because the same things they see and they're talking about. And people audience feels it and stuff is saying, okay, yeah, I went through this and stuff, but about come the punchline is it's okay and stuff. Something funny happened from it, or this happened from it. It can make you cry or can make you laugh because it's in all emotions always. You're in your
Okay.
emotions.
Yeah. So comedy and vulnerability. So I would say the comics hide behind their jokes and the comedians expose themselves. So the question is, which one is braver? If you agree with that statement.
The comedian is or a comic.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that comics hide behind their jokes?
No, no.
Okay.
I think no, not really and stuff because they don't really care. In comics and stuff out there.
Maybe they're high. That's the question. So would you say the comedians are exposing themselves?
Yes, I say so.
Okay.
You're out there delivering. It's like, they're going to judge and stuff. They're exposing themselves. They're talking about the human nature. I think a comedian is the same thing like when Mark Twain says every writer has a little bit of self in them. As a comedian, you write, right? You write your jokes, right?
Hmm.
And you're putting your soul out there. You're writing about experience, right? You're writing about this. You're writing about that. And where does it come from? Your writing. It comes from you. You're exposing yourself. When you're on stage, you're exposing yourself, right? And your
Hmm.
character to an audience and stuff, right? As a,
100%.
as a comic and stuff, they're just delivering. The message, right? Preaching a message like the Bible. Doesn't matter. Who hears the message or not? I'm just delivering like the comic.
Well, so like the Bible about legacy, who gets remembered? So will the comics Type 5 survive time, or will the comedian's cultural point of view be more timeless?
Um, uh, I think the comedian is a lot more timeless than that because they get bigger breaks. Once that comedian gets a show, the comedian gets this. A comic.
So you without like that big show, you're not going to get remembered?
You get remembered and stuff. But how big is your audience and stuff? You run and stuff. We all forget. That's one thing about human nature. We all forget.
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah,
Do
that's
do do
the
do
new
do you know?
TikTok
Do you
culture.
know? Do you know? There's a class once. And like that, and they ask people, and stuff. We all forget everything. History. We forget everything. Do you know who your great grandfather name was? What he did?
You're getting me there. You're right. I
Yeah, yeah.
don't.
So we don't remember.
No.
You know what I mean? We'll all be all forgotten. You know what I mean? It's history.
It's true.
So it's true. But you know, I mean, imagine TV shows. I remember Bob Hope, because how do I remember Bob Hope? He's out there on TV. You know what I mean? He's out there on this. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Being Cosby movies and all that. I remember. You know what I mean? How about a comic back then? You know what I mean? Let's say back then, comic wrote newspaper jokes and ads like that, right?
Mhm.
Do you see the ads still? You know, like smaller base and this and stuff. A comic, you know what I mean? It tells us messages and stuff and forget and stuff. So a comic's like a jester, you know what I mean? Back then. So is it more like a comedian? I wonder. Is a comic more like a jester or a comedian? I wonder.
I I would say that one's tough because the jester is more like in the court, and so they're satirizing a political
They're in front of the
environment. So
audience, the king. You know what I mean? That's
right.
tough business back then and stuff, being a jester and stuff. You tell a bad joke if your head. You know what I mean?
Maybe it's my ignorance, but I don't know if did back then in the courts, did the jester make fun of himself more, even though they're dressed funny? Was it really, were they taking on the role of a modern comedian? I don't know.
Yeah, I
Do
think
you?
so. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Or were they
or
just a
the
comic?
comic and stuff, right? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
just
I
tell
don't
them
know.
punchline. Gotta be more like a comic. Just get into a punchline. Don't go to history.
That's what I would
Oh, the
think.
village today is shitty because the kingdom is bad. You know what I mean? Get to a punchline. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
give
Be
them a
more like a
punchline.
comic and stuff. Don't go into like a comedian gets more deeper into
Yeah,
politics and
yeah.
all this stuff. I think Jester more like a comic back then because
Probably safer, keeps their head on.
yeah, keeps their head on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Well, Tommy, it was great. It was awesome. Where can everybody find you online?
Um, on Facebook, stuff. Tommy Guns, was it Tommy Morrison? Tommy Guns Productions and stuff. You can find me on. You can find me on LinkedIn and stuff.
Mhm.
Under Tommy Guns and stuff. You can find me on YouTube and stuff. You know, under Tommy Guns. I have a lot of different things out there and stuff. Instagram on Tommy Guns.
Mhm.
Okay.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Well,
Where do
Tommy,
we find you at?
well, we're on YouTube.
I
Of
mean,
course, link.
you ever do stand up like
I
that?
do. I do stand up 100% at mostly the Comedy Chateau
Okay.
in North Hollywood. That's my spot.
Okay, that's your spot. Do you like the comedy store?
Not my spot, but I do like it. That's always about getting stage time, and I don't want to waste my time
Yeah.
constantly waiting for my time.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's
that's fine.
why I'm doing the podcast as a way to
Uh,
become more efficient.
yeah,
So
I don't. I hate the comedy store because they stuck me in the front and when a comedian out there heckling me. I mean, the whole time.
yeah,
Got a friend saying, "Look at me," and say, "What do you want to eat?" I said, "He said, what you guys talking about?" Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, what you guys talking about down there? You know what I mean?
yeah. No,
You guys,
100%. It's depends on the place you're at. So.
yeah, yeah.
Well, Tommy, thank you so much. And for everybody else watching, please like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.
All right.